Hey fellow golfers, this is Robbie from BestBall. One of the most popular names in the golf accessory market today is Western Birch. Stop reaching in your pocket for boring plastic or plain white golf tees and elevate your game with premium wooden golf tees from Western Birch. You can customize both the hardwood and bamboo tees with one of their signature stripe patterns in a wide variety of colors. These tees are stylish enough to stand apart from the crowd, traditional enough to align with golf's heritage, and durable enough to make you forget about using anything else. Enter the code BESTBALL in the promo field in your shipping cart to add a free gift to your order. So visit westernbirch.com and get your own premium wood golf tees in the style that suits your game.
Though the other day, I did post something about Michigan, Ohio State, and all the things that I would rather do than have Ohio State win. Okay. And, heavy bags, 14 slot bags, rain, wind, all that. I said I preferred to Ohio State winning, obviously tongue in cheek, obviously having fun with it. And some guy comments, unfollowed. Hello and welcome to the Caddie Tales Podcast. I am Mark the Caddie, joined by my sidekick, colleague, friend, fellow looper, Nick, and we're excited to talk to you about how the game of golf and the game of life so beautifully intersect. As always, brought to you by Holderness and Bourne. Check them out at hbgolf.com. Type in the promo code BESTBALL and get yourself some free shipping here this holiday season. For you or for the golf lover in your life, Holderness and Bourne has some really, really great swag for you to try out so that you can look good on the course this winter or for the upcoming season. All right, Nick, as you can see, I am wearing my Michigan sweatshirt as it is a huge week in my life. I know that a lot of people are focused on Thanksgiving, and certainly I love Thanksgiving like a lot of people do. But this has always been one of my favorite weeks of the year. And if you really forced me to say, what is your favorite day of the year? Like, what's your favorite holiday? It's hard to pick between them. I have the ones I love. But the day that I probably wake up feeling the most different in my life, where I wake up in the morning and it's like that kid on a Christmas feeling where it's like I've got pep in my step and just I pop out of bed ready to face the day. It's Michigan, Ohio State Day. And for a good chunk of the last 20 years, it was a little more difficult. But the last 3 years, it's been something special. This year, the game may not mean quite as much on our end. It still has huge implications for the Buckeyes, but it's a huge day. I bring that up because I also know that you, true to your front runner status and lack of loyalty, chose Alabama as your team growing up. And you also have a big game for this rivalry week. The Iron Bowl. Yeah. And your game means, it appears like absolutely nothing. I know ESPN is still trying to shill Alabama a little bit for the playoff, but they have 3 losses. Auburn hasn't been very good, so not super exciting. With that said, would you agree with me that rivalry week is just, it hits different?
Yeah. I don't know if you watch the Iron Bowl very often, but for some reason Auburn usually plays us like super, super tough. It's their Super Bowl every year. So I don't know if I wake up quite as like excited. It's more of like a nervous feeling for me, but there's been a lot of times where they've knocked us out of the playoff just by beating us, and
these games though, they give you all the feels. And I bring this up. We're not going to talk about football all podcast here. Most of our guests, I presume, are tuning in for the golf-related aspect. But it got me thinking about rivalries in general and how in golf there's some pretty cool rivalries. We're going to touch on some amongst the players, and then also just some other rivalries. You might also use the word debate, for lack of a better term, that are out there where there's like two sides and people feel it pretty strongly. I do have to tell you, though, it's funny, like I have a good chunk of Twitter followers now and I have really positive interactions with them. Like I am able to avoid the cesspool and the negativity and all that is often Twitter. And though the other day I did post something about Michigan, Ohio State, and all the things that I would rather do than have Ohio State win. Okay. And, heavy bags, 14 slot bags, rain, wind, all that. I said I preferred to Ohio State winning, obviously tongue in cheek, obviously having fun with it. And some guy comments unfollowed. And I'm like, okay. And I thought he was joking, but then I click on his account and I see he doesn't follow me anymore. And I know it's someone who did. Maybe
it's just for the week. Maybe he's just kind of banning you for the week, hopefully.
Well, I whatever. I'm like, but it tells you that there are rivalries where people feel very, very strongly. And sometimes that emotion is probably a little bit unreasonable and our reactions are a little stronger than they need to be. I sometimes make some bold statements about rather rooting for North Korea than Ohio State. But if push came to shove and we were in like the apocalypse, I'd probably, side with people from Ohio over like North Korean leader or whatever.
I like how we often discuss how we enjoy caddying for, our rivals golfers. Like I like caddying for guys from Auburn.
Yeah.
They're usually pretty pleasant to deal with. And you always talk about how you actually like caddying for guys from Ohio State. So it's crazy.
Yeah, no, the Ohio State fans are great. I mean, they're everything that you want on the golf course. Degenerate, alcoholic, gamblers. I say that in jest, Buckeye fans, but all right. Yeah. So let's get to some rivalries in golf, Nick. Just a few of the quick hitting, big rivalries, whether they saw themselves as rivals or whether it was media produced or just fans have kind of picked one side or the other. Jack Nicklaus, I kind of have down at versus a couple of people here. The first one being Arnold Palmer. And I have found that in my life, as I've interacted with, longtime golf fans, people tend to side one or the other. What do you think? You agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, they both had like different personality types for sure. Arnold seemed like he was more out there to have fun. I mean, absolutely to win too, but fans and stuff like that interact while he was playing. And Jack definitely took it a little more serious and wasn't necessarily there for the fans, but he was there to win.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was a great rivalry. I'm a little young for that one, but that's just kind of what I've gathered from the history books and whatnot.
Yeah, and I don't remember watching them golf each other in big matches as a kid or anything, but as we were older, Arnold Palmer, I guess I gravitated towards him. He was nice. He was in good commercials and he had a drink. I remember my kids, they would say Arnold Palmer because I remember when he died, my kids aren't golf fans or, my daughters weren't, and they didn't know him in any way that was meaningful to them. But I remember when he died, we got Arnold Palmer drinks from the gas station or whatever to raise in his honor. And I figure anytime you can have a sugary drink as a kid, that's who you like. But, the other Jack Nicklaus comparison that's probably a little more up our alley is people talk about Jack versus Tiger. Who was better? Who had the more impressive career? And, I have to say, even though Jack has more majors, I have a hard time thinking that if you compared them apples to apples, because I know there's different eras and different technology and all that, I have a hard time putting anyone over Tiger.
Yeah. I mean, I think Jack probably had the greatest career, and then Tiger was like the most dominant, like peak,
Yeah, maybe the injuries kind of thwarted, and some of the other things off the course thwarted a little bit of getting the records and stuff. But it's kind of like the Michael Jordan versus LeBron James debate. I just refuse to even entertain that something or someone's better than Michael Jordan. You know, it's too big a part of my youth. And Tiger Woods and I are, I think, pretty much the same age, separated by a few months. And so it's like you have this life arc. Now, you know, you just have you feel connected to him, even though you've never met him. And there's, you know, you can't relate in so many ways, and yet you feel like you're close to this person. So if I was to really say who's the golfer that I gravitate towards, who's the golfer that, if I was filling out a bracket, it's kind of like in March Madness. For some reason, defying logic, defying how the year's going, the players, whatever, I just always end up picking Duke too far. In baseball, I just always end up, you know, thinking about the Yankees. And in the same way, that's how my mind goes to Tiger. But that's a fun rivalry to consider, because different eras, they were facing different levels of competition. And so maybe the number of majors that each won, it's hard to compare. But I think that debate and rivalry is a fun one to have. And now one more related to Tiger Woods, and this is a more modern one, is he was always compared and pitted against Phil Mickelson. And I think that even if people were neutral on that or liked Phil more, or maybe Tiger lost some fans because of some of the off the course stuff, whatever, my opinion is once Phil Mickelson signed with LIV, all of the people on the fence or the people who didn't care about this rivalry, I would think they went Tiger.
Yeah, I would agree. Phil had that personality in which he could, people just loved him, kind of like Arnold Palmer. And then Tiger kind of more like Jack, and that he was out there to play the game. But for some reason, everyone loved him, despite not really caring fans. So he just kind of had one of those personalities that kind of, I guess, polarizing a little bit. That everybody kind of just had to watch if he's near the top of the leaderboard. So
well, and I think nostalgia plays such a huge role in that with Tiger Woods. You know, like I can't. What year was it that he won his last Masters? I can't remember off the top of my head. But you know, the most recent Masters. You can't be a man in your 40s or 50s and not have thought that was just the coolest thing ever, seeing, you know, just the crowd swarm him on hole 18, and just, you know, there was a lot of question, is he ever going to win another one? And that nostalgia, it takes you back. And I guess with Phil, my point is, in the rivalry debate, he lost a lot of that, you know, like the mystique, he's a good guy like Arnold Palmer, like you said, he's the everyman, he's the guy you can gamble with, he's the more down to earth guy. I just get the feeling he lost all of it. And on the flip side, here's another rivalry that I think is fun to talk about, because 5 years ago, I think the answer of who people liked more would be totally different. And that was the Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka rivalry. I can't think of any athlete maybe who's the persona, his popularity has changed so dramatically as Bryson DeChambeau's.
Yeah, I don't know what he did on social media, but yeah, he's created quite a following, and like you said, he completely turned his personality around. I thought he was total dork like 5 years ago, and now he's pretty cool. He's pretty personable, to be honest. And,
well, we talked about this on a recent pod, that when I was watching him at the Ryder Cup, I couldn't get it, why everyone disliked him. You know, he seemed like the guy who was the most into the fans. He seemed genuine. He seemed to get it. Excuse me. And Brooks was the total opposite, just kind of strutting in his own world and not being very relatable or interactive at all. And when you listen to him in interviews, he comes across as extremely arrogant, in my opinion. And so I think that just the narrative has shifted. And so there was this rivalry. And I remember before the Ryder Cup, it was like it was just a given that people thought Brooks was the good guy in this and Bryson was the villain. And it's just totally not how it is shaped up. Now, I know they're going to do the match here. Isn't that coming up here soon?
Yeah.
And
probably.
maybe that'll help, bring them a little closer together in the narrative. Maybe it'll humanize Brooks a little bit. But this speaks to the fact that in a lot of this stuff, for golfers, it's a little different than like the sports team that you grew up with. I think that, it just becomes, well, you didn't grow up with Alabama, but, for most people who are loyal to where they are from, it becomes a part of you. It's a part of your soul. With golfers, it's maybe a little different, other than like somebody like Tiger and people like my age. You're picking people that you feel like you can cheer for. Like last year at the Masters, who I think won a ton of fans is Ludwig Oberg, and that was
absolutely.
Yeah. So, if it was like, if it was going to be him versus like Patrick Reed, for instance, I think people are going to gravitate one way or the other. Okay. That's enough on just kind of some golfers where there's some rivalries and how maybe we look at them. Golf is full of other debates, like things that people argue about where they're on one side or the other. Sometimes because of social media, that's exacerbated. Like maybe you take too strong of a position. Golf Twitter is one where people have a very strong position. Like right now, there is a debate going on under a post that I made about just the conversations that I overhear from people on the golf course about destination courses. Like I haven't been to a lot of them, but a lot of other people have. And so this is what the consensus of what I hear them say. And one of them was that a particular golf course is too expensive. It's too much money for the value. Because these are all expensive, so it all becomes relative, whatever. But there's one in particular where I think people begrudge the money more than they begrudge it at other places. And there's one person who is like adamant, oh, it's way better than where you work. That's an insane take. Okay. He's the only person I've ever heard with that opinion. It doesn't matter. He's entitled to his opinion, but another guy's like, well, the setting at Whistling Straits is what does it for me. It's like, you look at that setting, you're over the water, the bluffs, all that. So now there's this whole big debate going on about, does the setting matter of the golf course? And because somebody's like, well, the setting has never affected my score. So that's one of those hardcore guys, probably keeps his index to the 1,000th decibel point, so yeah, they can find even, does the setting matter when ranking a golf course? I think most rational, sane people would say yes, but it's still something that people argue about. A huge one that, broke out a few years ago is PGA versus Liv. There's a rivalry. Do you want to see the two brought together, or do you like seeing them pitted against each other, Nick?
I mean, I honestly kind of like the rivalry. I wish they could kind of get kind of like Ryder Cup going leagues. I think that'd be really cool. Like like AFL, NFL kind of thing. Maybe have them meet like a Super Bowl or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's really cool, but it seems like it's not going to happen. I think they're merging now, so I mean, we'll see what happens with it.
Yeah. No, you brought up the Ryder Cup. Obviously, there's a huge rivalry that we could talk about for a whole show, but it makes things fun.
Yeah.
And PGA versus Liv, I never got as riled up or heated about it as others because I don't buy into it that Liv is gonna really take off at the end of the day. I think people only have so much bandwidth. The average fan. Golf Twitter is kind of not indicative of most people. Most people are tuning in for the big things, the names they recognize, the majors, whatever. And so, there's only so many hardcore fans that are going to follow a specific league around, in my opinion. And so eventually I think this is going to sort itself out in some positive way. Here's one that, people feel pretty strongly about is, should you take a cart or should you walk a golf course?
Yeah, they're two different experiences for sure. I mean, walking's nice because you don't have to. It doesn't feel like you're constantly rushing. You kind of walk to get to your ball. You can kind of think about your shot while you're walking. You have a little conversation with everyone in the group while you're walking also. Whereas like in a cart, you're kind of hurrying and, but it's definitely more of like a chill vibe, I guess, because you're on a cart and you don't have to walk, and it's not quite as strength wise, but
they really are different experiences. So this is one debate where I can actually see, the merits of the debate, because I think they are vastly different experiences. And now I've walked very few times in my golf life. I guess it was always where I was in leagues where you had carts, it wasn't like an option. And walking was just something I didn't even think of doing until I started doing this job. And I will say that playing golf is super enjoyable. Totally great experience, but I had somebody carrying my bag the times I've done that, when you're out with buddies and guys are having cocktails or beers and you're listening to music or whatever, that vibe is super fun as well on the cart. But I don't know. This is maybe too simplistic of a way of looking at it, but I think that if you are walking, it seems to be a more serious round of golf. And if you're not, maybe not. So I think that's an interesting rivalry, an interesting debate to have. And I err on the side of, I don't really care what people enjoy. They do what they want. They do what they enjoy. But I will say they're vastly different experiences. The vibe, even like, so say we're with players 2 days in a row, one day on Whistling Straits walking with them, and then the next day on the Irish course and they're taking carts and we're caddying. Dramatically different vibe, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it feels like when you're with the carts, it's kind of like rushing, we're trying to cater to 4 people at once, which makes it a little more chaotic for us. Whereas when 2 people and it's a little more chill and you're not rushing all the time.
Yeah.
That's just perspective.
Yeah, lots more conversation and stuff when walking. All right, this one's crazy when people get upset about this. Hoodies and joggers versus traditional golf attire. Do you have a strong opinion on that?
Not really. I feel like I sound like a politician, but I think there's a time and a place for, relaxed outfits. Like, if you're, just playing fun, maybe have a couple cocktails, wear a hoodie and some joggers. But if you're going to like a top golf course, maybe dress a little more appropriately. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, the people, I don't care what people wear, but I will say the people who are anti-hoodie are the stronger voice in the argument, I have noticed on golf Twitter. So there is more of an anti-hoodie movement than there is a pro-hoodie movement. I think the people who wear hoodies just wear them. Similar to that is, should you wear your shirt tucked or untucked?
I think it's kind of the same feeling. If you're like at a nice, top 100 golf course, probably tuck your shirt in, and or if you're playing at like a private course, tuck your shirt and try to look presentable. If you're playing full course, like probably not quite as important. So
John Daly, I saw some TikTok videos of John Daly playing a very fast round of golf the other day, but he had his shirt untucked, and I just thought he's got his own set of rules. He doesn't care about conventions. So I like that. It does look sloppy. There's no doubt that it looks better in my opinion, that a shirt is tucked in and stuff. So it's kind of like life, though. There's a time and a place for things. We've lost what I would say in this argument is this, and I empathize or sympathize with the people who are wanting a more traditional formal, is we have lost formality in society. We've lost certain etiquettes, like when you go to the gas station on a weekend morning or whatever, to just see people there in their pajamas still. Whereas if you were to watch a video of people walking to a baseball game or something in New York back in 1935, they'd all be in suits and nice hats. And or, for people who are churchgoers, that's a huge thing because, the older people grew up in a different era where what was reverent and what was respectful was indicated by what you wear. And now there's been a whole movement of it doesn't matter what you wear, it matters what's on your heart. And so like I can see how some people that etiquette, that formality, the loss of it hurts them. I told a story on here once before where I was surprised. I've been married for 25 years and have been going to my in-laws for 27, 28 years to visit, whatever. But a year or two ago, my mother-in-law kind of came and tapped my hat off my head. I think it was Christmas Day when we were going to open presents or whatever. She'd never done that. But I'm like, okay, has she been sitting on this for a quarter century that she hates that I'm wearing my hat in the house and stuff? But like, I like wearing hats. I'm bald. I don't like how I look without a hat. And, but I'm like, I'm going to not wear a hat. I'm going to take it off because it's my mother-in-law and I respect her. And that's how you care for people. So in the same way, like if I'm going to Augusta, I'm going to wear something that indicates I'm somewhere special or I'm respecting the people who believe that it's somewhere special, as opposed to, kind of flaunting my independence and my freedom in a way that's very self-serving. So I will say that related to what you wear on the course, that, maybe just recognize it is meaningful to some people. It does kind of burden their heart a little bit. And sometimes it's okay to do things in a way that just doesn't upset others.
Yeah,
you don't always have to just be about doing things for yourself. All right, music versus no music, Nick.
Yeah, I guess I'm a pro music guy. I like listening to little music on the course, and for me, it kind of helps with those awkward silence moments, and we can kind of just get into the music and not have to worry about constantly talking to each other, and it kind of sets the vibe,
I like it a lot. Just a good vibe in most of the loops where there's music. I think I probably err on liking it more because most of the times the music is music I like. A lot of the players tend to be in my age group and we're listening to stuff from back in the day. The genres of music are generally pretty good. I always laugh because, and we've talked about this before, but like when we had a caddy at another course, my caddy was like, we had him 2 days in a row and he must have just realized I wasn't super uptight. And so day 2, he just goes all in and is higher than a kite. And at like 7:30 in the morning is playing gangster rap. And so that's where I'm like, maybe no music. Maybe let's turn this off. Doesn't quite fit the...
Try to play music for everyone.
Yeah.
For all groups.
So I thought that was just a pretty bold move. But as long, again, if I was in a group and there was someone who was like just your old school golfer who believes in certain forms of etiquette, am I going to really care enough to upset the apple cart? I personally am not. But I think that when I'm out with people and there's some sort of agreement that something like music can be played, I'm all for it. And a lot of these rivalries come down to, again, just are we going to respect and care for the other people that we're out with? Now, here's one very briefly: 14 slot bag versus the world. Which side do you err on, Nick? 14 slot bag versus any other bag.
I'm gonna be very controversial here. I'm gonna say I don't mind 14 slot bags quite as much.
You think you know a guy, and then he just goes to stir the pot. It's like headlines all across America. Nick with surprisingly bad take on the Caddie Tales podcast. You are now my enemy.
To your side, they're awkward to get the clubs in, and I would prefer not having a 14 slot bag as opposed to having a 14 slot bag.
Okay. So that's the rivalry question, that versus anything else. I'd rather have anything else, but if I have it, I'm going to survive. All right. Here's one that I thought was funny. So I'm out on a outing this last year with all women, and I was with them 2 days, and it's very serious, too serious, and and super slow, although not as slow as other similar events, but way too serious, way too serious. And one person on a hole gave them, so first of all, there was a whole debate on what was inside the leather mean. And one person had this cockamamie way of doing it. It'd be hard to simulate it, but I'll just tell you, they were doing it wrong. Trust me, they were doing it wrong. And I tried to explain they were doing it wrong, but they weren't open to that suggestion, whatever. But finally got them to agree that they could do gimmies for inside the leather. But on one hole, a woman just kind of gave herself the putt. She must have deemed it was close enough or whatever. I might have even said, "Oh, that's good." I can't remember. Honestly, I can't remember to that point. Okay, here's the point. I thought I was going to see my first elderly women cat fight brawl on the green. Oh yeah. Oh. And then it lingered into the next day, and they weren't even in the same group again. But my one player who I was with the 2 days is still griping about this woman and all upset and angry and whatever. And so I thought, okay, where do you stand on are gimmies acceptable? Do you play everything out? I had a group this year where they insisted for their game, you had to play everything out, and it was a miserable loop. So where do you fall on that?
Well, I mean, when I play with my buddies, we have an understanding that anything inside the leather is good. If it's, debatable, you lay your club down and measure it. And otherwise, if I'm playing like a serious match, we'll probably do it aggression, whoever you're playing against. You ask, is that good? And he says, yeah. Oh, and that can get a little testy, but I'm definitely pro gimme. Let's move.
In a place like our course, because of pace of play, because of the difficulty of it, because you've got caddies with 2 players, because there's, it's not meant to be played like they play it on television. Okay. We're taking a whole lot more shots. You got to find ways to speed things up. And so gimmies are generally accepted and good. I remember one loop, was it last year or the year before? I can't remember, but these really wealthy dudes from an exclusive club, and they were there living it up. That one guy was just hammered, and they made a bet. And I don't know if I was with you on this loop or another caddy that I caddy with all the time, but they made a bet that on a hole, whoever won the hole was going to get a shirt from the pro shop, and then they both said, "Oh, they'd give it to the caddy." Okay. So one of the players, the other caddy's player, he sweeps like a 10-foot putt. Oh, that's good. There was something on the line or whatever, but this guy was so hammered, couldn't stand up straight, whatever, by the end of the round. And he's just giving things. If the ball hit the green, he was like giving stuff. So you'll see people who have that kind of attitude. And then you'll see people where it's almost obnoxious, like, how they are, and it gets really aggressive, especially if there's money on the line. I know purists are going to say you got to play everything out if you want to keep a real handicap and all that. I get how it could lead to vanity handicaps and stuff like that. So, there's a lot of layers to that argument, but generally speaking, it helps speed up pace of play, which is a primary concern for us as caddies where we work. But yeah, that's one where I don't see the debate rage quite as much on Twitter, but I have seen it in person. This is the argument where I see the potential most for actual physical altercations. And and there's a part of me that's like sad those women didn't fight, because can you imagine how, that's a crazy thing to say, isn't it? But Can you imagine how awesome it would be to be able to tell a story for years to players and on here that like 60-year-old women came to blows on a green or started pulling hair or whatever. I mean, I kind of feel like it was a missed opportunity. All right, a few more just real quick. Here's one that I didn't know was a big debate or rivalry, and that is, where do you put a rake? In the bunker or out of the bunker? I found that as I was doing some research, and I Googled it, and that popped up.
Yeah. I mean, at our place, we put them outside of the bunker.
Yeah.
It creates a little more people in. That can be kind of annoying. I like putting them outside the bunker because I like the thought that perhaps I'm doing some good work and I'm gonna lay this rake here and it's gonna save somebody from going in the bunker. But that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, I guess that is as simple as my thought is. If it occasionally keeps the ball from going in the bunker, then that wins. But yeah, I was surprised. I didn't realize that was such a big argument for people. All right, grow the game or shrink the game. Big debate.
Oof, that's a tough one. Honestly, I'm gonna have to go shrink the game these days.
Oh, wow.
Too much riff-raff on the course, and the courses that I play at are always constantly packed, and so yeah, I'm gonna say shrink the game.
I would say that maybe we just find a different solution. I don't know what that is. Government subsidies and federal land donated to build golf courses to increase supply. Tax credits for, greens fees. Let's
love it.
Yeah. Let's find other solutions because I don't want to be. I don't like the idea of golf being exclusive or whatever. So, grow the.
I'm going.
Couple more here. Man, here's a new one. Replace divot or remove ball from divot or play it out of the divot.
Oh, absolutely remove it from the divot.
Yeah.
I think the dumbest rule. It's like, I always say it's like literally ground under repair. It's going to be filled in like 2 days. So
yeah.
Yeah.
How about, Here's the last one I want to talk about today. And this is one that I think will grow in the next 5 to 10 years. And that is a potential budding rivalry is caddies versus new technology. Something I'm starting to see is that caddies, you're talking to the player, you have local knowledge, what the course, whatever, but they can't help but use their gadgets and they trust the gadget more than the caddy.
Yeah.
Do you have any sort of concern about that moving forward?
Yeah, I saw a caddy kind of explode one time on a guy. He kept at his watch. The caddy would be like, all right, you have 150 to the pin. And the guy would be like, well, this says I have 35 to the middle. And the caddy's like, I think it's like, fine, just hit it 135 then. I don't really.
Yeah.
Buckets, yeah. It was kind of like brewing too for a while, so I kind of understood where he's coming.
Yeah, I mean, people are entitled to have their gadgets and spend that money and utilize it and all that kind of stuff, but it just creates. I've noticed it creates a few awkward moments because it's like, okay, well, why am I here? Or, I know what that says, but maybe you gotta, trust me on this one. So yeah, and I just tend to be more pro human interaction over technology, generally speaking, anyways. So, all right, Nick, happy Rivalry Week, happy Thanksgiving. Before we go, what heavy baggage did you help somebody unload this week? We like to close our podcast with a segment called Heavy Baggage, where we recognize that everybody is carrying some stuff in their life that maybe they need a little help unloading or lightening that load. And we're trying to be intentional this winter in not carrying heavy bags on the course, but maybe helping out some people in need. Did you have any opportunities this past week, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, with it being Thanksgiving, I was trying to be intentional in checking in on the old folks at my gym. I don't get a ton of human interaction, but the gym is one of the places I interaction with people. And yeah, I've been checking in with the older people. I know the holidays are kind of tough. Sometimes they have, a spouse that's gone, that's no longer with them. And yeah, just try my best to make them feel good this time of the year.
Yeah, certainly, that's one thing I always think about the holidays is people talk about what a great time of the year they are, but for a lot of people, they're not. We like to elevate them in a way that is Hallmark kind of Christmas movie like. But for a lot of people, there's a lot of pain this time of the year, a lot of heavy baggage being carried around. So I think that's good to be intentional, looking for ways to support those in need. I had the opportunity to talk to someone this week who is kind of making a transition to being able to drive again after not being able to for a lot of years. And, going through all of the stuff they have to navigate with that process and all the stressors and stuff like that, and feeling overwhelmed and stuff. But what I did was focus them on the growth and the progress that they had made. Let's not worry about these little things, and they're going to take care of themselves. Let's focus on the progress that has been made. Celebrate that, give thanks for how, you're growing in your life, and keep the big thing. So, I don't know what impact it had, but that is just what I'm looking to do, is help people keep moving forward and seeing how each day they can take that next shot. And that's something that we want to remind you folks out there today, no matter where you're at, whether things are going well, whether things are just absolutely a mess and you're out of bounds, or you're deep in a bunker, or you're in a divot, as bad as it seems, as hard as it seems, on this side of the ground, there is always a next shot, and it's full of hope and opportunity. So take yours.